Since the dark times of 2020, it's hard not to notice the anti-modernist undercurrent heavily influencing the discourse, especially on the right. There is a feeling that something is deeply off with modern life. From dating rituals to what kind of jobs we have and how we raise our kids, everything is different now. And the dysfunction of our world is often attributed to these seismic shifts in norms. The thinking goes that to alleviate the decay in society, we must return to tradition and all that comes with it. Now, this video is not really about tradition. I'm a big tradition enjoyer. I've talked about this in other videos, but in light of economically protectionist attitudes on the right and the rise of what I would call the factory BF, whose complement obviously is the trad wife GF, I want to talk about this yearning for an era of American life where many jobs were based in manufacturing goods, and how this protectionist strain on the right is really about something much deeper than a job on the factory floor. Hey guys, my name is Maggie and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, I hope you enjoyed this video and subscribe. And if you're a returning subscriber, how are you? Welcome back. We've had quite a few tumultuous weeks with the tariffs. It's a lot of ups and downs, backs and forths, red light, green light. Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap. And whether or not these tariffs are to be used as a negotiation tactic or to bring manufacturing back to the US is up for debate. I'm more concerned right now with the American rights nostalgia for the days of industrialization. Many protectionists conjure up images of the American glory days and see themselves as the man on the factory floor. But my suspicion is it would go a bit more like this.
And it was this like tiny little box with like a mattress with stains on it and no air conditioning. And
in 1950, about 32% of the American workforce was employed in the manufacturing industry. In the post-World War II era, the rise of the middle class and the economic boom created a massive demand for stuff like kitchen appliances and cars. In fact, demand for steel doubled in the 1950s and again over the next 2 decades. And towns like Pittsburgh became hubs for steel production. Demand for workers in these factories was high, and so were wages. But the skill level demanded for this kind of work was relatively low. And so men from poorer or working class backgrounds with little training or education could enter into these factories and achieve relatively high wages. Manufacturing became a doorway to the middle class. Many of these factory workers moved to the suburbs, and home ownership in this period skyrocketed. So, high demand for jobs, good wages, you can afford a home. Maybe your wife won't have to go to work so she can stay home and raise the kids. I'm envisioning the white picket fence already. But many of the ingredients present in this equation are not here anymore, specifically home ownership and the single income family unit. But you can find the causes for these woes in housing regulations and the degradation of the US dollar. A lot of things changed for America in the early 70s. The US went off the gold standard, unleashing the Federal Reserve's power to print money limitlessly, affecting things like our dollar's purchasing power and government spending. Things changed for American manufacturing as well. Let's zoom back into steel. In 1973, an agreement was signed between the steel industry and unions raising workers' wages. This could go on for a little while. The steel industry would raise prices to fund these higher labor costs, but eventually, the international labor market in places like Japan, South Korea, and Brazil would be able to undercut American workers. To make matters worse for employment demand, US steelworkers' productivity improved dramatically over the 20th century. So one steelworker could now do the job of several. Tony Dutzik wrote, between 1990 and 2021, steel mill employment in the United States fell by 58%, while productivity more than doubled. The US steel mill workforce is now an eighth of what it was in 1950. All of this sounds pretty terrible, but manufacturing is not the full picture. To quote Martin Wolf at the Financial Times, in 1950, employment in manufacturing was 13 million, while that in the rest of the economy was 30 million. By the end of 2016, it was 12 million and 133 million, respectively. So while employment fell slightly in manufacturing, the rest of the economy grew enormously, something most of the doomsayers don't acknowledge. A post recently went viral on X claiming that 1971 was the high watermark for working class wages in America, and she coupled that with manufacturing's loss of dominance in America's economy. But Working class wages did not peak in 1971. They peaked in 2024. Yes, even adjusted for inflation. And American manufacturing output has actually risen 640%. The real reason America's job market has shifted is because consumer preferences have as well. We are a tech-based world now. The jobs we have are more creative, they're safer, they're more innovative, and they're higher paying. People who live in areas of America decimated by the loss of manufacturing jobs are understandably upset and feel forgotten. The way we've responded to those people has often felt dismissive, even if it was an attempt at sober advice. Learn to code is not something that the 58-year-old who's so close to retirement and just lost their job really wants to hear. There are places around this country that feel like ghost towns. Loss of employment matters, but that does not mean that all hope is lost. Areas with fertile ground for entrepreneurship can come back, but the ingredients have to be there, such as high-quality education, low taxes, and an easy, unburdensome regulatory environment. A potential workforce has to be there as well, and many states like my home in Louisiana are trying to combat the dreaded brain drain. As we've moved towards a service economy, some of our jobs have become cushier. Many of these are derisively known online as email jobs, with these girls being the poster children of this industry.
Gen Z boss in a mini! Gen Z boss in a mini!
And many of these TikTok day in the life, come work with me at my tech sector project management job have created a belief that many of our jobs are fake. And listen, I have a whole rant saved in my noggin about why our COVID era money printing created a bloated tech sector workforce problem. But that's for another time. Men in these email jobs that idealize the days where work involved measuring exact inputs and outputs, working with your hands, experiencing a degree of danger, are asking a deeper question than an economics nerd like me can really answer for them. I think they're struggling with purpose. And I don't believe that they truly long for the factories or the mines or the shipyards. Otherwise, that's the work they'd be doing. In January 2025, there were 462,000 manufacturing jobs open in the US. They want to feel pride in their work, a degree of agency perhaps. I don't think manufacturing jobs, which still exist, will address the problem they have with the modern corporate environment, which can be stifling, obnoxious, and mind-numbing. But so can the factories. Adam Millsap wrote about his experience as a factory worker during the early 2000s auto industry boom, and here's what he had to say. This job convinced me that humans are not meant for assembly line work. It is hard to form bonds with coworkers. There are no problems to solve, no new challenges to overcome, no thrill of achievement. The slog of factory work goes against our human nature. We enjoy challenges, value novelty, and delight in tinkering and experimentation. Factory work provides none of that. Now, I'm not claiming that there are no issues with modern corporate environments. They are often run by HR departments, and the rules of engagement are so inhuman that we now have shows like Severance satirizing the whole thing. But nothing lasts forever, and the beauty of living in a rich economy is that we have options and modes of operation get disrupted all the time. Americans experience more freedom and prosperity than our ancestors could have ever imagined for us. And that also means that a man or woman with the spirit of a lion who needs to roam in the open field and not be constrained spiritually and physically to a desk can do so. The path is entrepreneurial, it's creative, it's less stable. But thank God we live in a wealthy society where we can make that dream a reality, whatever trials and tribulations come our way. Nostalgia is a beautiful, rich liqueur. It's easy to get lost in, and it's very opaque and sweet. It numbs the taste of the hard realities of the past, the restrictions, the ways of life that were unavailable to us. The future is more uncertain than it ever has been. That is why nostalgia is so seductive. Robotization and AI will sweep up most of those manufacturing jobs tariff enjoyers want to bring back to the US, and it will sweep up service sector jobs too. But the economy moves forward, it grows, but only if we allow it to fully bloom. Protectionist tariffs are a disastrous policy for a number of reasons. It is foolish to think that businesses will simply swallow the costs of tariffs. They will ultimately be passed down to consumers as a price hike. And after the past 5 years of soaring inflation and consumer prices, are we sure we can really cope? I'm not. The American businesses that many protectionists want to protect will face price hikes as well, as many of their inputs, such as materials, machinery, and production, take place overseas. The cruelty of some protectionists who have been laughing in the faces of concerned business owners is astounding. The manufacturing jobs we are being told will return will be swept up by robots. In China, dark factories have emerged with no lights and no humans. If anything, the US needs to use its best assets, intelligence, and innovation to compete with China on this new frontier, because they are currently winning the race to build this kind of automation. The point of all of this is to say, manufacturing is not coming back, at least not in the way it was before. And I doubt it will be able to occupy the role it once had in American life. I think this will be one of my more controversial videos, and I'm scared of the comments already. I hope if we disagree that you can understand that I empathize with your position on the subject, and I'm not trying to sweep your concerns under the rug. However, we cannot delude ourselves or lie to others about what is possible. One of my favorite entry-level economics texts is Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt. I highly recommend it as a primer on an economic way of thinking. To look at these policies and go a little deeper, looking at cause and effect, is essential to making a good judgment call. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I will see you next week. Ciao!